And if you don't feel something's right, there's always another avenue you can take it in. And it's just getting the right support, I think.
Agreed. And giving yourself permission to stay in the driver's seat no matter what
Yeah.
happens. Welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Very excited to be with you today. Before we continue, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you would, please share it with somebody that you think might enjoy or, benefit from the stuff that we talk about here. My guest today is Jess Caruso. She is a wellness educator, amongst many other hats she wears. She is the founder of Move to Glow, and we have some very interesting topics that we're going to cover today. Jess, why don't you say hello, introduce yourself to the good people, and then we'll just dive right in.
Hi, I'm Jess. It's so nice to be on here. Yeah, so I'm founder of Move to Glow. I have been in the field of wellness pretty much my whole life, with movement myself. I am a yoga teacher, nutrition coach. I teach health education classes. And I've definitely integrated all of the intersects of healing modalities, mind body work. And it's sort of kind of gravitated towards what stage of life that I'm in. But this is definitely where I found my calling. So I'm doing a lot of prenatal and postpartum support, mom support groups, just kind of bringing everyone together in community, moving our bodies, breathing, and celebrating life with birth of babies, and just kind of, like I said, bringing everyone together. So classes that I offer are very educational, and they are very accessible and inclusive to women basically of all stages.
I love that. And so how did you get into this particular sector of this line of work? Because there's a lot of yoga teachers out there. There's a lot of people that are in wellness. Why don't we jump into your story and why you landed here?
Of course. So I was teaching health in public schools. I was doing a lot of studying on reproduction in my education. And then when I started as a personal trainer at an all women's health club, I started working obviously primarily with women, but women who from pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, and beyond. So through my experience, and then sort of getting into this stage of life when I myself got pregnant about almost 5 years ago. And so I aligned my work and my studies with kind of what my body was doing through pregnancy. And I just really fell in love with it. And I actually felt like I reclaimed and connected with my body more internally, instead of being as a mover my whole life. I'm kind of projecting my movement out. So I found a lot of appreciation for that. And so I want to spread that awareness when I work with my clients. But yeah, it's kind of started too when I became pregnant. And also I wanted to be a resource for women to feel more comfortable, because even as a mover my whole life, I was and teaching all these, I was teaching some high intense fitness classes. I'm this is my career, my livelihood. I know instructors do it. But I really wanted to make programs that were safe, effective, but also making moms to be comfortable with knowing that you can move your body, and really just tapping into that intuition, because there's all sorts of maybe mixed information out there, misinformation. A lot of information is could be outdated. Just when you get pregnant, it's okay, maybe you're told don't bring your heart rate up over 140. And I'm I've always been someone that I'm fit, but I go up and down the stairs. You put me in front of a flight of stairs, I will be winded and my heart rate will go up whether I'm pregnant or not. So I'm I know that's a huge myth, for example. So I just want to kind of be that environment for people to just come talk to me, but also know that you can move your body as long as you're feeling comfortable and it feels good to you. Then I want to be encouraging to do that. So
I mean, it's interesting because I definitely was told both extremes. One, don't exercise when you're pregnant. If you're doing exercise, stop exercising, you're gonna hurt the baby. And then on the other end, which is you need to move during pregnancy and you should start a fitness routine. And I'm okay, these two things don't jive. And my philosophy I mean, for a very long time, but particularly with pregnancy and with birth, is you have to trust your instincts and you have to trust your intuition. And you should accept information. You should, have access to lots of information. But at the end of the day, it's like what you said, like you need to do what feels right for your body, because your body and my body aren't the same body. And while many of the rules, I'm sure, apply to both of us, we're going to react differently. We're going to function differently. Certain things are going to be better for me. Other things, the same thing might be worse for you. You know what I mean? So you had mentioned like really starting to listen to what your body was telling you and like really getting into communication with your body. And I find that to be a really interesting topic. So I guess, I don't know, how do we dive into this from a high level sort of perspective? What is that all about? Like, what is that? How do you communicate with your own body?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a practice of patience because I'm like, it's kind of funny. We're in our bodies literally all the time. We're living in our bodies, but how often are we really just like in our bodies, sensing in when we maybe feel something that feels off or a thought comes through, immediately we want to either turn it off or we want to put some sort of a Band-Aid on and we just don't want to feel. So I think that's the hardest thing, like just in general. And I feel like we're in such a fast-paced society just with everything, even just like how we're getting things instantly, and it's that instant gratification. And so it's just kind of learning and retraining to just slow down, be patient. And then also I feel like we can get more quality movement by slowing down rather than putting so much, like when people think of movement, we think so much of muscles, but I integrate breath work, but also the bones, kind of like lightening things up. Like even in a stretch, I'm like, try not to bring so much muscular effort. Cause I feel like then we just like, we're also just trained with everything to like overextend and overdo. And then like we're emptying our cups, we're trying to give out. And then it's like time for us. And we don't even know how to do that,
We all prioritize our children, our husbands, our families, work, obligations, even friends. And somehow it seems to be fairly habitual that we end up coming last, which I understand. I've been there and it doesn't come naturally to me, but I know through experience for myself, like you said, like you can't, it's so cliche, it hurts, but you can't pour from an empty cup. That is a very true, sentiment.
Yeah. And I think with like me educating the clients too, especially when they're pregnant, but also pre-pregnancy, because what you're really trying to do, whether it be movement, nutrition, anything lifestyle related, you're trying to integrate and form a healthy habit that can carry on, but without judgment. And it's also kind of, I think, too, learning how to like let go of the expectation and you find your way. I think that's the hardest thing, especially then obviously we get into like postpartum and figuring out, or you may think like you may have maybe some decisions made on how you might want to do things like routine wise or lifestyle wise, and you just kind of have to see what which way it's gonna take you to. So I think a lot of that, like before birth, integrating those kind of concepts, but also it's about building healthy habits. And then it's also saying yes to things, but also saying no to things too, and just prioritizing, because I think it's like, this may sound cliche too, but it's like, yeah, it's all about like, if the mom is happy, then the house is happy. Like it really is true. And the mom is that social emotional glue. And we wear so many hats, we're doing so many things. So trying to set that up as best as we can during pregnancy is really key. And yeah, just like leaving expectations out the door. And a lot of our movement, unfortunately, like it's our mind. A lot of it's that mental piece, where I remember I learned in yoga training, one of the first things we learned is your mind is not your friend. The mind is a beautiful, wonderful tool. We need it for thinking, decision making. But a lot of times, like our mind can wander, and we need to just learn to kind of tune that out. And it might just be the few moments that we get in class. But it's just like I said too, with our fast-paced society and so much stimulation, like it just may be those few moments. But we need that. We need to just like connect and yeah, just breathe and be. I know that sounds really silly and simple, but if we were just like stopping, taking a breath, we just like observe what's going on, we proceed. That's like an acronym: stop, take a breath, or S is stop, T is take a breath, O observe, P proceed. Like if we just had a few of those like mindfulness techniques, it can really go a long way. And yeah, it's just saying yes to things that we feel like are going to help rejuvenate and just give us the energy to take on what we need to, as you know, as moms and women.
It's true. And that you were talking about, letting go of certain expectations. I've had a lot of guests on the podcast, and we've talked about expectations, we've talked about habits, but one thing that comes up, at least briefly, so often is stop comparing yourself to the highlight reel of somebody else's life on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
I just got the chills right now because part of the reason why I'm starting this work, and now that I've had my son, I can really put myself out there and moving. Like we have our home base of where we're living, but I learned too with my daughter, that was me. I was scrolling. I was hearing about wake windows, sleep schedule. I was trying to track. Like I'll use that for example, and I'm like, no, this is not me. It doesn't necessarily work for us. Yeah, and that was really hard for me. And I definitely went through my own I definitely had some postpartum anxiety. And yeah, it was just like, I was so concerned about what people were thinking, or if like another mom, whether I knew them or not, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Does that mean I'm okay? It's like we all kind of go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we seek approval or at least confirmation from strangers on the internet. I'm not even saying that you're posting things. We go through guilty as charged. Like I've done this, right? Where you're on some Facebook mom group and somebody says, oh, my kid was this and now we're this and whatever. Like, okay, whatever works for you, whatever methods you use for, breastfeeding or feeding your baby or sleeping, potty training, whatever. There's a million systems. Great. If it works for you, I'm happy for you, okay? Just so you know, you out there listening. But I was like, somebody was talking about sleep training babies, right? Sleep training babies, cry it out method, saved my life, blah, blah, blah. And I thought about it for a second, and it was like people that I knew and people that I respect and admire were saying like, this is the way to do it. This is so great. Swear on this method, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, am I expected to do that? And there was this moment where nobody else was in the room with me. It was me and my phone, right? Mm-hmm. And some random person on the internet who lives in a different state that I knew a long time ago when neither of us were moms saying something. And I'm like, why am I feeling guilt about not doing something that doesn't feel right to me, that doesn't solve a problem for me? What I'm doing is working for us. Like, what is this inner, like, knot of anxiety in me over seeing this post, which isn't even attacking me? You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm doing it to myself. It's just me doing it to myself.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is like what you said. You stop, you take a breath, you observe, and then you proceed. Like in that moment, without knowing the acronym, I did that. I stopped and I was like, hold up a second. I'm feeling right now like someone's yelling at me or berating me. There's nobody else in the room. Social media is crazy like this because of our reactions to it. And we do this to ourselves, and it's wild.
Yeah, and it's almost like you lose, because you're not, even there, you're not in your body, and you're losing that whole nurturing piece because you're focusing on what's out there. And like, And I'm like, if it works for you, I'm like, you know what your baby needs, just like you know what your body needs. So I think it's just kind of, we
Right.
need to learn to trust, and it's not a one size fits all approach. Or if something worked one time or one way, maybe it served a purpose. That's what I teach in my yoga classes. You know, if you let something go, maybe it served a purpose at one point, but we have space for a new, maybe a new approach, just a new perspective. But yeah, it's just trusting. And yeah, there's so much. And I've done a lot of studying now, and I do a lot of teaching about regulating the nervous system, because we're also in such a, with
Mm.
social media. And I mean, let's be real, our bodies are not designed, they were not designed for all the stimulation. Like, it's wonderful. We've got wonderful tools, all the technology, all the information, the connection. I mean, look at how we're doing this podcast together. But like, our bodies, our adrenals, our internals, like, they're not used to all of this. So I feel like our bodies might be in this constant like fight or flight, and there's different hormones being
Mm.
released. And it's just, we don't ever give ourselves time to really rest and recharge. Even in our sleep, we're not doing that either. So it's like finding a way to really, yeah, slow down and to regulate.
I imagine that looks different for different people, though, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Like for some people, I know they have to go outside. They need to go swimming, and that's the way that they get back
Yep.
into their like, happy place physically and hormonally and so forth. And other people need something else. For some people, it's like an aggressive bike ride or a hike or something like that. But how do you figure out what it is that you need to like get yourself sort of back into, I don't know, not back in shape in like the physical sense, but like back in tune with, okay, get rid of everything that's like, the mind is racing, everything is going
Yeah.
crazy. How do you figure that out?
I think finding activities that are just like more simple. But I also think, like you said, you have to find something that's enjoyable. Like, I would love to sit and really dive into a nice book for reading. That actually helps me relax at night. So I'm like, if I ever get the chance to read, I do it like earlier on. But I just find too, like, yeah, to try and keep it like more simple, or it just might be connecting with someone, just sitting by yourself or taking yourself out. Um, yeah, and I think it's also like an experiment too. And I also find people like, I don't know if they force themselves, but like, even in just like the stuff that I offer, like, yoga is an obvious one, but I'm like, if you go to a class and you don't necessarily like the style or a teacher or a place, or if it just didn't like you didn't vibe with it, like, you could try it again. But if like, there's another way. So I think it's kind of trial and error and understanding what your body craves at the time. Me as a dancer growing up and doing a lot of high intensity, like, I've slowed things down to my movement, but now like I'm ready to pick up again. And I think it's just, yeah, it's like, what you're what do you do that makes your body feel good? And it's almost, you get to a deeper, like, almost like a cellular level too, where you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where you get into like energy and just like your spirit and soul, that whole piece to it. It really brings life to it. So, because I have some clients too where they'll be like, oh yeah, I tried this calming activity, or I went to this retreat, and I'll ask how they liked it. And they were honest. They said they didn't like it, but then they kept going back to it. I'm like, well, why would you do that? Like, fine. It could be, like you said, some people, well, my husband, for example, like, he loves to ride like motocross. That's his thing. I mean, that's high adrenaline, like, and he's learned to do things that kind of like balance that out. But like, you find something that you really like, and don't feel like you have to like fit into a box of like forcing yourself. Because I also want to say that I try to go with my approach is very simple. I feel like a lot of things in like health and wellness are super trendy, and I'm
Mm.
like, we really just need to be in our body, really no equipment. I teach a lot of classes with like no equipment. Yeah, so I think like that's another piece too, is like, a lot of people want to like, again, see what everyone else is doing. And
Yeah.
it becomes almost like trendy, or it becomes like a popularity. People always ask me like what my take is on something, and it's just like whatever it happens to be. trending, but I always ask them, like, are you feeling good about it? And then also I think it's a dive deeper too on like what's going on with your body in terms of like your health and health conditions, because actually what's really big out there, there's more research in especially women who do like a lot of heavy weightlifting and like a lot of HIIT and CrossFit. Like, it's great if it makes them feel good, but regulating hormones and actually like there's been some studies where it does affect your cycle, and women actually slowing down, doing more slow movements. Not only do they actually get more gains in whatever skill they're trying to do, but that helps because a lot of times there's a connection with their cycle, sometimes getting pregnant. So sometimes it's trying something new that maybe is unfamiliar to you, but it's something worth because of like another type of, you know, something that's going on in life, maybe goal wise. So that's usually what I ask them too. Does it make you feel good, or, you know, what is going on with your life currently? And maybe we need to like make some changes or just have maybe some awareness of what you're bringing into your life. And maybe there's a shift that could happen. So that's like another interesting piece that I'm finding working with women, and this whole from like pre-pregnancy cycle, like to beyond, like from postpartum and beyond. So, yeah.
It's so interesting. It's weird that you brought up menstrual cycles, because I was literally just mentioning to my husband, like, not an hour before we got on this call, I was like, I want to start doing more research on this, because, you know, you hear about, oh, the luteal phase and this and that, and you should use this to your advantage. And during this time, you should do these kinds of activities. And I'm like, I don't know. Again, I don't really believe in a one size fits all approach. I just, I tend not to trust that.
Yep.
But I would love to study a little bit of information, see if it fits, because like, I just started my period today. Too much information for my listeners. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm there. Hey, I'm there with you. So,
but I'm feeling a certain way. And I'm like, the activities that are usually interesting and exciting to me today aren't. Mm-hmm. And, you know, nothing personal to you. Absolutely. I was excited about our phone call. I'm excited about this. But I was like having to like push myself to get into this mode. And now that we're here, it's wonderful. And I love these conversations. But it was like, I feel like my hormones are doing something. And I'm the kind of person that over a long period of time, I have gotten really good at listening to my body's cues and it tells me, oh, this is good, this is bad, let's do this, let's try that, I didn't like that, I liked this, whatever. And so I'm like really paying attention to, okay, what's it telling me? And it's telling me it wants to sit, it wants to like do like mental activities. I want to like read something. I want to study something. I want to dive into a project. I want to do like thinky work, you know? I don't want to go walking. I don't want to go shopping. I don't want to do anything that's like out. I want to like focus on one thing and really spend time on it. And I was like, I wonder if that has to do with my cycle, because I don't know, like usually I'm like, whoa, let's go do things. It's great. And, I don't know, you know, like I feel like there's something to know about that, but my whole point of saying all of that was like, it comes down to what you mentioned is like listening to what your body is telling you. And that's a really, I mean, for me, maybe not for you, but for me, that's a really hard thing to teach. Like, how do you teach somebody to listen to their body on like such and it's like fine tuned over time, you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't know how to teach that. I don't have a technique. I don't know how I do it. I just know what it likes and I know what it doesn't. And I really pay attention to it, or I try, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's just a funny thought. 'Cause like, how do you teach that? I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of it too is not even just like the cueing. Sometimes it's just like by observing, but I think it's also people they learn to dive into their own self-study and explore. I think that is very hard, especially like when you get to pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, and then leading up to birth, because that's the most time that you're going to be, I mean, you're there. There's no even just the weeks leading up to it, like, because your body really tells you what's going on. Yeah. So I think like my approach definitely is less is more, but it's kind of drawing more inward. But I think listening to your body is also, I do a lot of affirmation work, but a lot of it's like learning how to trust yourself. It's less of
Yeah.
like a specific information I give, but it's just something where they can find, like it's like they're becoming their own teacher, their own inner guide, and I'm just sort of facilitating that. Um, and just allowing them to feel comfortable too, because I think, I've had a lot of clients before where they've been in classes that either move too quickly, or they're not able to just like access that in connecting. um, and I try and teach people, with like the less is more idea, like a stretch, for example. Yeah, there's some obvious stretches, but like I might feel a stretch differently than somebody else. So I usually will ask questions like, you tune into the sensation. Where do you feel that? How does it feel? Is there a way that you can shift, adjust, or customize that movement? I think just kind of giving people the opportunity. It's like your body is a vehicle. I'm like giving them the opportunity to be the driver of it, because I just think that we definitely lose that. So just kind of weaving in those like simple little techniques really help. And simple goes a long way, because overcomplicating, it's too much. So I try not to like over cue. I just allow people to just feel and be, and I think just being comfortable with it, because yeah, they've unfortunately been in classes where some of them have gotten hurt, but some of them just like,
Mm.
yeah, they're just it moves too quickly, or they just aren't able to. Yeah, I don't know. It's finding a way that they can connect and like feel comfortable. So um yeah.
It's interesting. You said, letting them be in the driver's seat. That's something I say a lot as a doula about birth,
Hmm.
where my ideal birth for my client, wherever it is, however it goes, is that she feels like she's in the driver's seat. That it isn't something that's happening to her or at her, but by her, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about movement and exercise, and all I can think as you're saying these things is I would implore women before they get pregnant, and if you're already pregnant, it's never too late, but I would say if you can, before you even get pregnant, learn to listen to your body and advocate for its needs and wants, even just to
Yes.
yourself. Because when it comes to birth, and you had natural births as well, in a hospital setting, a lot of things are done at you and to you if you
Hmm.
are not vocal and in control of the situation yourself, or you have a doula who's like capable of doing that. But if you're in communication with your body, with what it needs, what it wants, it almost becomes, it's such a partnership feeling. Like with my
Hmm.
with my labors, and people have heard my birth story here, so I won't go into the whole thing, but with my second one in particular, I let my body just do its thing. And I
Hmm.
was there to facilitate it, but I surrendered because I was like, okay, labor is a mechanism, right? And it knows what to do. My baby knows what to do. My body knows what to do. I just need to get the heck out of the way. And
Yeah.
at one point, my body was like, leg needs to be up, this leg needs to be out. And
Hmm.
I was like, I am not flexible. I am not a gymnast. I don't do these things. I was sitting on the toilet, I have one leg out, one is like up on the washing machine. My husband's like holding on to me. I'm like, I was in the weirdest contortionist positions. And I'm like, this probably looks like I'm like possessed. Like it probably looks like something absolutely just bizarre from the exterior. But it was just, my body was like, okay, now we need to move this way. Now we need to move this way. We need to put legs up, legs down, move down, like whatever. And I was like, cool, do your thing, body, let's go. And it was amazing. Every contraction was so productive. It was so wonderful. My baby flew out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to push. Like it was like about as close to an
Yeah.
ideal birth, except for the fact that I didn't get to have him in the water. which is whatever, a whole nother
Yeah,
part
I
of the
didn't
story.
either.
But like, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
like, it was so wonderful. It was such a great experience. And I think I had to go through my first labor to learn that, because with my first
Yep.
labor, I was mentally in my own way. I was like, contraction. Ooh, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I
Yeah.
got to get through this one, And it really taught me, because at the end, when it was time to get him out, I was like, okay, let it all go.
Yep.
Let's go. And it was, I let go, and at the same time regained such an intense sense of control, which I think people are afraid that if I let it go, then I'm not going to be in control, which is weird, because that would make sense,
Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what your experience was like in your labor, if you have anything like that.
A couple of things that I thought about. Well, it came to my mind when you were talking about like your body knowing what to do. And well, I birthed both my kids at the Connecticut Birthing Center in Danbury. And in the room that I was in for my son, for my second, on top of the bed, there's a frame and it says, "Your body knows what to do." So I just thought of that right away. But yeah, it's trusting your body. And the idea of letting go is really hard. I actually, I had plans for water birth for both, but actually my daughter, I was in the water for most of it. But I was I was as comfortable as I could be, but something kind of like hit where I was like, I need to go to the bed. I need to get out of the water into the bed. And then all of a sudden I got to that part where it was like, it was sort of time for me to push. And I realized I was like, my body was almost like too relaxed. And I was like, I'm going to use my body was telling me, for me, Jess, we need to use your body and use these areas of the body that we haven't used in a while. So that was kind of my own cueing. My doula, I gave her a look and she's like, you know what, let's go to the bed. But then my son, so funny story about my son, because, well, a couple of things I did with him. We focus so much on like core and pelvic floor, which is really important, but everyone talks about strengthening. And then there's cue words. I can't believe Kegels are still referenced and taught, but there's so much, it's not a Kegel, but like we're taught to like, squeeze and tighten, and like it's so important like all throughout pregnancy. But I'm thinking, by the time you're third trimester and like you need baby to descend, so I did a lot of relaxing my pelvic floor and just like really letting that go. But the funny thing was, I never forget the night before, but he had nowhere to go basically, and my stomach, I remember showing my husband, I got out of the shower, but when you're pregnant and your belly is hard. So you could see he dropped, but I was like, feel my belly. So it like went from soft to like there was like the abdominals and like the tissue. And then I'm like, okay. So but the funny thing is I listened to my body. The next morning I started contractions, and I actually showed up to the birthing center 9 centimeters dilated. So I almost birthed like in the truck, like ride over. Luckily I was close this time because I was 40 minutes before. So yeah, that was the whole, but I really trusted my body. My body felt different with the active labor. I didn't have as much back labor. So I was like, okay, maybe these are just, sort of contractions. Sort of, my doula was like, okay, I'm on the way. Like maybe we should head over. But I just really kind of like let myself go and just, but enjoy the experience. But yeah, it was just kind of wild how quick like that came. But I was going to say, going back to the water birth, I did not have a chance to get in the water at all with him because there was only one staff member there, and she's like, we got to just get you. But yeah, and that one was interesting too, where I birthed him in a position where I didn't think I was on all fours. So, but each birth story, and that's another thing too, everyone's bodies are different. Everyone's birth stories are different. My water gushed the first time out, and I was anticipating that. And then here I was with my son. I was at 9 centimeters and my water did not break, and it broke at the very top and very small. So I think that's another thing too, is we have to that's also leaving the expectations out the door of like, your experience is going to just be so different than each one. And it's like, but you got to really trust, and you sort of know when it's time, like when it's time to go, or when it's like to get, for me, because there you have to go like when you're in active labor, to the birthing
Mm-hmm.
center. But like, yeah, your body just kind of like knows, and I think just trusting it. But we yeah, but it's hard if we've been taught this whole life we're not like just being in our bodies and listening to sensation, and then we're going to the most, physical, mental, emotional experience that we'll ever have. And then having the support of partners and other birth workers, but not knowing necessarily how you're feeling. So trying to help support and facilitate and then advocate, but also you trying to use them for support too is also, so that's why like the education piece and people just knowing what their options are. So I feel like that's also why it's really, really good, that we're all doing this together, because yeah,
Yeah.
women need to just like take control, whether they're in class or during their time, like, and with you too. So like it's yeah, I just wish we had more time for ourselves. I think that would make the world a better place. So we just have to make the time and like be in control of it and say yes to it.
Yeah. Agreed. It's so funny how many parallels there are between our first and second birth stories. That's like rather
Oh my gosh.
wild to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I don't know if like the personalities of your kids happen to be similar to how they like birthed too, but it was like my daughter was like ready to go, and there was my son, like he was still kind of hanging there, and I'm like, and that's how their personalities are too. So like that, I just wanted to add. I think it's a funny thing. Like,
that is really funny. I don't know. I mean, I laugh that, my first, he took his time coming. He was a 23-hour labor at home, and he spent a lot of time in the birth canal and a lot of time pushing, and I wasn't really sure what
yeah,
I was doing and whatever. And he's one way, and then my second, I was trying to keep him in because quite literally I wanted the birth pool filled up, and I was like, get in there. We're
yeah.
not coming out yet. And he's like, I'm coming out, Mott. Here I come.
Ah,
And he was very fiery and self-determined and strong-willed and spirited, and he came out with a fire red mohawk. And I think that about sums up his personality. 2 years later, he's still fiery and spirited, and he's wonderful, and still has his bright red hair. And anyway, it's yeah, there's definitely something to that. Yeah. One thing I wanted to add was with being able to experience birth unmedicated. And okay, I have to say this because I always have to say this. There is a time and a place to use medications in labor. There is a time and a place for interventions. I am grateful that they're there. But I would strongly recommend, if given the opportunity, to birth unmedicated, unhindered by medical interventions. It's challenging, yes, but in my opinion, it sets you up in a way for motherhood. Not to say that mothers who birth otherwise aren't good mothers, but there's something that you learn in an unmedicated birth that can't be taught another way, I think. And it comes down to what we were talking about before, where you really get in tune with your instincts. You kind of have to,
yeah,
because you gotta. That's just how birth works. You listen to what your body needs,
yeah.
you get out of its way, and you learn to let go when it's time to let go. And I'm finding that as a mom, motherhood requires the courage, the patience, the determination, the grit, the letting go sometimes, where you're like, hey, you know what? I can't control everything, and some things I shouldn't. And sometimes I want to control things, and I'm like, you know what? I need to let go and let them figure this one out on their own.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that that's at least in part, learned from my labors, where I was able to really listen, and my body was like, you're getting in the way. You're trying to force this thing. You're trying to push something to happen that's not going to happen. It's going to happen the way it's going to happen, but you need to let go spiritually and mentally, not even like there's nothing physically that I needed to do. I just needed to say, okay, let's do this thing, and just really mentally get out of my own way. And that has really served me in motherhood.
Yeah. 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 I also think that we forget too that we are mammals and we are creatures. Yes, we're complex creatures, but doing things nurturing and also instinctual, we have to tie into that. And I think too, like even like obviously it's like you said, it's wonderful and we have the support and we have those medical necessities for when it's time. But it's even like what and I think it's getting out there now, but a lot of it's like generational too, where like it was encouraged for women to like get on their back and push, and that's going against gravity. And you think about how other animals, mammals birth, and then how like if you're in those deep squat positions versus you're working with gravity, you're opening up the pelvic floor. So I think it's like tying into too like that we are mammals, and that's what us creatures do. Even like I accepted it more with my son, but I had struggled with my daughter with lack of sleep, and just the sleep deprivation, but with breastfeeding too, and the cluster feeding and getting up in the night. And then when I had my son, and I knew like the first year would fly by anyway. So I was like, I'm going to contact nap when I can. I trust my body, and I set myself up. My daughter's in my bed with me like at night. But I'm like, that's a lot of times what creatures, what animals do. They lay it on mother's chest. And obviously like there's a whole other side to it, making sure that it's safe. It's good for your mental health doing it. But it's like, that was what worked for me. And I'm like, I'm also going to enjoy it too, because I realized that's what I needed, because then I slowed myself down. But I was like, you know what, this is what animals do in nature. So I think we like sort of forget that. And with the medical intervention, it just is like the complete other side of things too. So, but a lot of like what we talk about, like I said, it's getting more out there, but a lot of it's almost like, taboo, like, oh, you birthed that way, or oh, you,
Yeah.
or oh, like, okay, baby is sleeping on you, and I'm like, I'm not doing the cry it out method. I'm like, he's fine, tying into how you began this podcast, like talking about that. I'm like, that's doesn't resonate with me, but it doesn't feel right, and it's also I think because
Yeah,
I'm
and you
being
know
more
what? Like,
connected with my
whatever. If it
body.
works for somebody else,
Yeah.
yes. If it works
Mm-hmm.
for somebody else, great, fine. My first kid slept like I had one of those like pillows that like I don't know. They look like at the top of an armchair.
Yep.
I had one of those pillows. I slept like at a diagonal every
Yeah.
single night for the first year of his life. His arms were on me. He was like straddling me, and that's how we slept every single night. And I'm very grateful that my pediatrician is as cool as she is, because I think any other one would have probably berated me and told me that I was a terrible mother and I was putting my kid in danger, etc., etc., etc. But it was so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And my little one now, I mean, my little one, he's 2 years old. He's becoming a small giant. This morning, he crawls onto me at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and he just fell asleep on my chest. And I'm like, I felt wonderful. He obviously felt wonderful. Everybody felt great. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why are we being told? I mean, I understand why. I've read the articles and whatever, but like, I know some people who shouldn't co-sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are some people who shouldn't. They just,
Yep.
for whatever reason, they're not those kind. But for me, I'm like, everything about it feels right. Everything about it feels natural. Breastfeeding was the same way, where I was like, I'm going to breastfeed for as long as I and my child want. Like, I had somebody tell me, oh, well, if they can ask for it, they're too old for it. Put it in a cup, blah, blah, all the cliche, whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I still nurse my 2-year-old to sleep. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanna. Like,
Yeah.
and he loves it, and I love it. And that's like my time at night. We just snuggle and I relax, and he goes to sleep. And there's like pressure to stop. And by this time, I've gotten over it. But there was some time ago where I was like, is this too much? Is this too long? What are other people going to think? And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? Who gives a hoot?
Yep.
Somebody somewhere is going to disagree with what I'm doing no matter what I do. Co-sleeping, vaccinating, not vaccinating, home birth, hospital birth, you know, I don't know, homeschool, don't homeschool, you know, unschooling, crunchy mom, medications. Like, no matter what you do, somebody's going to have an opinion about it. Somebody's going to think you're stupid. Let them think you're stupid. You do you. Listen to your instincts. Your instincts are so strong.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yep. No, I love that you say that because, yeah, there always seems to be such a divide. And I'm like, you can have one from one, if it's such a, you know, you can have one thing from one side that worked and then you can pull from the other side. It's like, who cares? But yeah, there's all this judgment and all this. But I'm like, it works. If it works for you, then I feel like I got more comfortable the second time around because with my son, I actually slept like that with him too. But part of it was my husband working nights. He's always worked nights. So after 2 weeks postpartum, I was there at night. My daughter, I'm like, I can't wake my daughter up. My son did not like the bassinet and he felt fine. He was actually the type that he was breastfeeding every hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm like, I'm not going to re-swaddle, change, do all that. And I was like, I got to do what I can to get sleep because I'm like, it's your mental health.
Yeah.
And that's where I actually thought about me. But I'm like, this works for me. I explained it to my pediatrician. I've set myself up really well. And I felt very safe. And I know he felt safe. And actually, my daughter's sleeping in the bed, but he loves his crib. I got him like right, like he sleeps with me sometimes in contact naps. I still love that. But I'm like, you know what? Hey, like I actually now, because I'm also like, it didn't work for me having them right there in the bassinet either. Like I would want to check on them. I was like, I'm not getting sleep doing that either. So, but I know, I just feel like there's just so much of like, you know, or I try to encourage people, like if you hear something or even like there's advice that you read or get from like a provider of some sort, it could be about anything, but I'm like, if it doesn't resonate with you, it just doesn't feel right. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with also getting a second opinion. That's the same thing with like going back to like people taking these yoga classes or whatever and they're like, no, I don't really like it. I'm like, well, why would you, like, you can try something else or you can find what fits into your life. I just feel like that's something that I don't know, we're almost programmed to do too, is like just.
I was literally just thinking that. I'm like, I feel like women in particular, men less so, but women in particular, we have a tendency to want to be with the crowd. And I understand that there is a certain security or safety in doing what everybody else is doing. I'm not even saying that it's like always wrong. Like sometimes that is legitimately the best choice, is to do what everybody else is doing. But we have to remember that. Okay, I'm going to tangent for 1 second. I have a suspicion, I have a theory, that back in the day that used to work better. Before social media, before technology, before large corporations, blah, 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 all that stuff. I probably used to be better to do what everybody else was doing because you were living or you were getting information from their actual experience. Nowadays, large companies pay for stupid studies. They pay for a stupid study to get a stupid result. They get the result, they push the result, they make the money, and now there's all these like, okay, I'm getting into like weird conspiracy minded, but I do think there's some legitimacy to this. So you read these things online and they're like, oh, okay, we'll take the obvious one. All women should birth on their backs. Based on what? Based on the convenience of a doctor? Like, and then if you really go back, there's like a whole thing about a king back in the day. It was like a really weird, twisted story. I'll let you guys dive into that on the internet. Have fun with that. But everything about that is done from an industrial sort of perspective. It's convenient for the doctors. It's easier with the medical equipment, blah, 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 blah. But if you really take a moment and you really like listen to common sense, your inner intuition, how does that make sense? Look at the anatomy. The baby has to go up. gravity is a thing. Like, if I drop a pencil, it falls. Like, that's a thing. Why wouldn't we? And then what you said, like, every other mammal squats down. They use gravity to make the baby go down, right? So why don't we push on all fours, or standing up, or squatting, or literally any other position than on your back? Like, that is the last one, other than maybe standing on your head. That is the worst position to push from. And so I'm like, now we're doing this because of this industrial, corporate, whatever. And so I think it is more important, more vital now than ever before to learn to lean into your instincts, trust your body, trust your gut. Think for yourself. Don't go with the crowd just because the crowd is doing it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's all about comfort too, because I feel like medical providers aren't trained necessarily. They're trained a lot of times for surgery. They're not comfortable with it. So, and them think maybe kind of giving the advice that it is a one size fits all, that this is your only option, but there's always another option, and there's always a way. That's why, like, I had, I moved closer to the areas, but that's why, like, I had started working with midwives right away. And I go, even for like my checkups myself, midwives, because they always ask, like, my first appointment, they're like, well, what do you feel like doing? What does your body feel like? And I'm like, it's like, whoa, like, I've never been asked this before too. But I think it's kind of just getting the message out there that there are other ways and other options. But I think it's just, we're kind of just, we're kind of trained and brought up that way, but it's just ties into too, not being in our bodies, not being free thinkers and free movers, if we're tying back to like what I do with movement too. So, and I think like more is getting out there. And I think more people are curious about it. So it's nice, like, hearing different people's birth stories and perspectives, because, and I think it is taking the time though to really appreciate being in your body. Because I remember too, like, when I realized that I wanted to go more of like, I wanted to explore my options of the, like, I know like the cascade of interventions, but I wanted to know what the options were. So I wanted to start off the most like unmedicated, and then get into a hospital if I needed to. But a lot of people, I think, or they want to prepare for it, but you really do have to start preparing from the beginning. And it doesn't mean like you have to change everything, but really it's just reclaiming your body and being in your body. You can't just show up at like, after, like, including the gestational period, you can't show up at 10 months and just prepare for, if you don't know what your options are. And like letting stuff go. So that's why it's so nice to have the support of doulas, because it's just it's a wonderful thing. And I also accepted that it maybe wouldn't go. Like, I almost my son, there was a chance, the way that he was forming, there was a chance that I could have needed to have a planned C-section with him. And I knew that was, and I explored my options, and I knew that like that could have been, but you sort of just, you just know what your options are, and you're your biggest advocate. And if you don't feel something's right, there's always another avenue you can take it in, and it's just getting the right support, I think.
Agreed. And giving yourself permission to stay in the driver's seat no matter what happens. Like, even if you have to pivot to an unexpected C-section, right? Like, you can still be in control. You can still be in the driver's seat. You can still call the shots. If somebody tells you you have to have a C-section, ask questions. Get yourself to a point where you feel like you can be in control, even despite the fact that it's not going according to your plans. You know what I mean? Like, and it does so much for you in terms of your mental health too. Like, if you're able to do that, it does so much for your postpartum health, your mental health, your spiritual health. Like, and if you don't feel you can do that, hire a doula, because that's what we do. That's what we're there for, is to help advocate for you and keep you in the driver's seat. We don't take over, you know what I mean? Like, we put you back in the driver's seat if you feel like you're starting to be nudged out of it by someone or
Right.
something. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love this. Well, we are coming up on an hour. This has
Wow.
been a very sort of deep conversation. I rather enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Before we end
So,
off, though, tell people where they can find you on social media, and also, where you're located, where you're teaching your classes, and so forth.
yes. So again, I'm Jess Caruso. My business is Move to Glow. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Move to Glow CT, and my website is movetoglowct.com. I'm right here in the studio in Newtown, Connecticut. I also offer pop-ups in the Connecticut area. I love traveling and collaborating with local businesses, but you can find me here in Newtown or social media, where I do offer a lot of online resources and virtual classes too.
Amazing. Well, I will make
Yeah.
sure to put links into the description so people can find you at all of those places. Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful chat, and I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you so much, Paulina.
It's been a joy. Bye, everyone.